Happy Sunday. This is PFG.Live, the podcast dedicated to the writings of internet philosopher Hey Man, Why Didn't Ya? Who wrote, "Hey man, why didn't you just take that sludge and squeeze it into new PFG Stones?" Welcome aboard. We've got a team of regulars in the Discord server. Welcome to Warren Jones, Paul Morley, Dale, Evils, Carl Tauber, Josh, Wesley, Russell, Robin, and DBX. And on the YouTube side, we already have CJ Stevens and Carl Tauber, his evil twin. Carl is reporting 79 degrees Fahrenheit and 54% humidity and sunny, breezy in the People's Republic of Rhode Island. Welcome aboard, sir. Evils is reporting a whole bunch of numbers which indicate that he is not out in the weather. Russell says greetings, but doesn't give us the weather. We'll allow it for the moment. Josh says in Winterpeg, it's at Charlie Yankee Whiskey Golf. Winds are 160 at 16, gusting 21 knots, 15-mile visibility, broken at 25,000. Temperature 30, dew point 18, altimeter 2968. Remarks, there's a bunch of them. Dale says it's 13 degrees science and trying to rain in Canada, in Edmonton, Alberta. Welcome aboard, sir. Warren Jones, my neighbor to the north in Sutton, New Hampshire, reports 60 Frankenstein, light rain, light winds. You have rain? Could you send some down here a little bit, please? Please. Wesley says it's 58 and sunny in south central Idaho. Let's see. Who came in? Mr. Tim Beatty has joined us. Welcome aboard, sir. Over the pond, he's reporting winds are 230 at 9 knots, visibility 10 miles, broken at 20,000, temperature 34, dew point 04, altimeter 2978. Welcome. We have stuff. It was a busy week. It was a little weird. This was very much maintenance week, and I will be reporting on all of it. Oh, I forgot to bring up one thing. Of course, naturally. We'll do that next week. So maintenance week, I got my friend Dan, as I reported last week, to help out, and we successfully executed the mission for which we will be reporting today. Currently in Windham, New Hampshire, it's 74 degrees Fahrenheit, 61% relative humidity. Manchester Airport reports winds are 310 at 11, gusting 20, visibility 10 miles, scattered clouds at 4,400, broken at 5,500, overcast at 25,000, temperature 24, dew point 13, altimeter 2970, and there are remarks, which are unimportant. Yeah, community notes. Evils had some community notes about squishing PFG Stones together. I don't know, but welcome aboard, Evils. You can quip as necessary. Otherwise, I don't think we have any major community notes, and no major errata, unless I said something wrong last week, in which case I got it from somebody else. So yeah, last week I threatened to do all this maintenance, and my buddy Dan offered to help. I was quizzed on either Discord or Instagram. I think Carl, you were quizzing me as to whether Dan earned sushi, and the answer is absolutely he did. So here's the story. Dan came on Monday and helped me lift the band filter off of the grinder. And that was very instructive. In fact, I'm going to get you an overview picture here. So we're going to have some pictures here today, and for that I'm going to apologize to the guys on audio because you're going to have to use your imagination. I'm going all the way back to Monday and give you the overview here. Yeah, here's the overview. So back on Monday, I set up waiting for Dan, and this is the filter system rolled out a little bit, a couple of sawhorses ready to go, and the job was and you can see the Freddy in the foreground here. And the job was to lift the band filter up off of the tank and set it aside so that we could do the cleaning. Evil says that you read my hat as extraordinary gun lathes. No. So this is extraordinary gun leather from Mitch Rosen, who is up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and has been here. We've talked a little bit about 3D printing. He's a super cool guy. I use his extraordinary gun leather, and it's extraordinary. He does a nice job. Great company. The company's been around for easily 25 years. It might be 30 years at this point. So that's to clarify the hat. Do I need to clarify the t-shirt? This is the Ox Tools, the Epic Egress t-shirt. And, because you're asking, today's sticker is 3D printing is not a crime. Yeah, don't get me started on the sticker. Okay, so moving back to the topic at hand here. So that was the scenario, is getting this going. Now, we ran into some interesting challenges. So let me just talk to you about what a band filter does, because this was actually pretty interesting when I first got it. You can see, well, I'll leave the big slide up. You can see there's a trough at the top of the picture, and that trough is what the grinder drains into. So as the grinder is moving fore and aft, away from the operator and toward the operator, anybody want to guess what that axis is? Yeah. That is Z, correct. So, for you mill guys, just try to keep up. So as it's moving in Z, the downspout, yes, Z, thank you, Josh. The downspout moves fore and aft in that trough, and then as it's moving in X, and the table is oscillating, there's a little chute off of the table into the trough that is, let's see if I could point it out to you, right here, okay? So the effluent comes off the table, dumps into this trough, and then it dumps into this trough, and then it dumps into the band filter. The band filter is actually an amazing design. So the band filter looks like a conveyor belt. And I'll see if I get you a side shot here. The conveyor belt is this metallic chain. It's like a chain link. That's a good analogy. It's like a chain link fence. Okay, and it's formed so that the outside edges of this conveyor belt are kind of taut, and that's what's driving this conveyor belt. And the inside is a little looser, so it forms a depression. And it's like in the shape of a bowl until it gets to the end, and then it gets all straightened out and it comes back around. So what happens is you've got this shape of a bowl, and now you have this paper stuff laying on the chain link fence, and it makes the shape of a bowl. So as your stuff dumps out of the trough, and it gets down to the band filter, it goes into that bowl of paper filter made in the shape of a bowl. So it starts filtering. It dumps its filtered stuff straight down into the tank, and there's a float switch that extends into this bowl that's formed, and as the filter paper gets clogged up, it will start overfilling, okay? The float will go up, and it will say, oh, my paper is clogged up. I'm going to start running the conveyor belt, and it starts pushing it out into a bucket. If you look at the picture here, you can see right there is the little bucket it drops into. And it gets fresh filter material off of the roll. And now the level of the liquid drops down again because it's now filtering again. And that process continues. And that is how a band filter works. So as long as you have filter paper on the roll, and by the way, the roll is contained in this box right here, okay? As long as you have filter paper on the roll, this just keeps doing that job. It will fill up, it will trigger, it will feed new filter paper, and it will keep on going. And ladles and jelly spoons, that is a band filter. Also, a band filter is used on our Discord server for all of my band jokes. Okay, I won't dwell on that. Oh yeah, Evil says, didn't you play bass for filter in the 90s? Yes. A catenary curve. Ooh, yeah. Very nice, nice job. I believe you are correct. Also, yes, I'm going to get to that, Evils. You are correct. Evils Devils says, I know a few lathe DROs that disagree. I know they disagree. They're wrong, okay? The Z-axis, I'll die on this hill. The Z-axis is the axis that has the spindle. Full stop. They're wrong, though. Yeah, okay, we're both agreeing. Yeah, Mr. Tim Beatty says this is a really expensive Mr. Coffee filter. It is exactly a real expensive Mr. Coffee filter. Robin says correct. We're done here. We could leave. See ya. Okay. So now that you know how a band filter works, we can start talking about how this system needs to get cleaned up. And just to let me finish up the description. So the pump pumps the now perfectly filtered coolant down a pipe to go to the nozzle to spray on the work, right? Not so fast. So what happens is I take the output of the pump, which has gone through the band filter, and I go to a cylinder, a cylindrical filter. Let's see if I believe we can catch this in a photo here, which contains yet another filter. And the other filter is an accessory which I put in. It's from the same company that I bought the filter. I bought filter paper from them, and I bought some other things. Yeah, here we go. I got a picture of it. So right here, if you're watching on video, is this cylinder. This thing stands up about 30 inches off the ground. It's a lovely, heavy-duty, ridiculously overbuilt welded structure, and it holds this, I think, 24-inch or so, maybe 20-inch by about 6-inch diameter metal encased filter in that housing. Now, I am told, and Warren, you're going to have to tell me if you recognize this. I am told that these filters are used in hydraulic systems in heavy equipment. So they didn't have to reinvent the filter in this cylinder here, but that's what they're using. And they're not super expensive. And it will further filter the coolant, and then it will go off to the nozzle, which we'll talk about in a minute. The alleged size of the band filter porosity is about 20 microns. That's what I am told. And the filter I added, this is going to sound counterintuitive, is rated at 30 microns. Now, originally, when I first started this, I used a 5 micron filter in this cylinder, in this filter here, and that clogged pretty quickly. So I decided that it was within a month I had clogged it. So I decided I would just drop down to the next size, but they didn't have an intermediate size between 30 and 5, so I went with the 30. If I later on, when I run out of these, if they have one in the middle, I might go to the one in the middle. But here's the dirty little secret about filters, is that when they give you a number like, oh, it's a 20 micron filter, that's a pretty approximate number. And as a filter clogs up, it gets better at filtering. So a 20 micron filter that is getting clogged up and maybe even almost too clogged to use is actually a much lower grade filter. So the band filter automatically does its thing. I can go a year on the 30 micron filter. Yeah, so Warren, the cartridge filter that I'm using allegedly is from that class. I was told that these come out of the hydraulic filtering. It's like 22 inches or so in length. It might be 24, and it's about 6 inches in diameter, and it's got a metal outer and a hole down the middle. Does that sound familiar? For those of you who don't know, Warren works in the business of keeping heavy machinery working. So he knows this stuff. Okay, so he says that sounds correct. So obviously the band filter is doing its job. I could tell you that the secondary filter is doing its job. And then we get to the nozzle. I have made some modifications to that filter, and we will loop back. See what I did there? We will loop back to the band filter modifications. But I did some modifications to that filter. Very simple. I added a pressure gauge. So that filter works from the outside pushing into the center, and in the main housing there was a bung with a block on it, and I took that out and I put a meter in, and I believe it's roughly a 20 psi total range meter, right? So, or maybe it was 15 psi, and it tends to run when my system is running normally. It's about 7 psi in the filter housing. So that's on the input side of that cylindrical filter. So I have a meter. I have to look around the side of the grinder to see it, and I can see that's working. The coolant then proceeds up to a hard point on the grinder. Bill is with us. Bill Olney from Rome, New York. He reports 67 degrees Fahrenheit, slightly rainy, in the home of the Air Force Research Labs. Welcome aboard, sir. So the hose goes up to this bracket, and there's a little manifold on the grinder, and it has a couple of closed off ports, and one of the ports also then goes to the nozzle. So I took one of those closed off ports and I installed another pressure meter. Wesley says, I have a filter on my Tormach mill coolant. I decided against a pressure gauge. I figured when it stopped coming out, it would be time to change. That's not a bad procedure. So on my two pressure gauges, okay, one is on the input of the cylindrical cylinder and one is on the output of the cylindrical cylinder. When I'm feeding one of my nozzles, which is at downstream, I should see 7 psi and 5.5 psi. That's the pressure differential across that filter. As that pressure differential starts going up, something's happening, okay? And generally it means the filter's starting to clog. I'm sorry, not going up, going down. The differential is going up, but the absolute pressure at the nozzle is starting to drop. So if I see 7 psi on the input, but instead of 5.5, I start seeing 4 or 3.5 psi on the output, I know that filter is clogged. Okay, and I will pretty much immediately, it's a very steep curve, by the way. Once it decides it's starting to clog, it pretty quickly clogs. So I'll change it out. Now we come down to the head of the grinder, and then we have another block which goes from this pipe. I think I've talked about this before. I put a check valve in it so that when the system stops pumping coolant, it doesn't drain all the way back. The check valve is right at the grinder head. This is important, by the way. If you put a check valve later, earlier in the system, then you can tend to have this length of hose drain out, and you're back to square one where you have to wait for the coolant to show up. So there's a check valve right there, and then there's also an on-off ball valve right there. Then we go down a length of lock line, which is a trademark. Okay, it's like Coke and Pepsi. We know what we're talking about. To my NOS, and the NOS has a number of smaller holes. It presents a constriction, and then the NOS sprays out the coolant in a magnificent pattern, which is focused on the grinding area. Let's take a brief commercial for the NOS. Go to pfg.gg/NOS, N-O-Z, November, Oscar, Zulu. So it is designed to literally focus the coolant to the spot where the grinding is happening. One of the side effects of the NOS, I'll get back to pressure in a minute. Hang in there. One of the side effects of the NOS is that it also now has a vector pointing at the wheel from the front and the back. And I absolutely see this in my stone grinding. And I see it in normal grinding with an abrasive wheel, with aluminum oxide wheel. It cleans the sides of the wheel. And it's really pretty dramatic. There's this line of demarcation where you can see from the action of the NOS pointing at the wheel also. It cleans the side of the wheel. So it does a great job of the three things we want it to do. It's providing cooling, right? It's providing lubrication, and it's providing ejection of the schmutzel. You might want to write that down from the grinding area, and it works great. That's the NOS. But anyway, that's our circle. We've now come full circle, and now it's going to drain into the tank and continue around that path. So back to the process here. So we figured out how to put the band filter. You could lift the band filter off of the, looking for the appropriate picture here. You could lift the band filter off of the tank itself and then put it on the sawhorses, and that's exactly what we did. That's when I hit the first problem. I don't know why, but at the factory that made this, I bought it with the Okamoto. It was part of the package. But at the factory where they made this, they did not see the need to have the coolant pump able to be disconnected from the electrical box. And if you can't disconnect the coolant pump from the electrical box, you can't lift off the band filter. So I was talking to Dale, and he sent me some pictures of his system on his big grinder, and there was a connector from the coolant pump into the electrical box. Not so on mine. It was hardwired. So the first thing I had to do is I had to unwire the electrical connections from the coolant pump inside the electrical box. And you can see them down here in this picture. And that was inconvenient, to say the least. But once it's done, that was the only thing holding the band filter onto the tank unit. And then we lifted it up, and in this picture you can see Dan's feet there, and you can see the sawhorses, and we were able to lift it up and put it up on the sawhorses. And now we could start cleaning out the tank. Spoiler, I'm going to show you that I put a connector on that cable. So once we did that modification, we were able to start cleaning out the tank. And there's a video here, which I have to show you. And let's see, I think there's audio that goes with it. I think you'll hear the audio. Let's see. Anyway, there's the sludge coming out of the tank, and it was pretty astounding. Yeah, Dale says it's tasty. The density of that material, right? Because remember, we've already filtered it once, so it's all sub 20 micron particles, and they're laying on top of each other. It was amazingly dense, which is basically how I'm frequently described. Eventually, we got to the bottom, got the whole thing cleaned out. Now, the Freddy performed quite admirably. I am very happy. The Freddy that I have is called the Freddy Micro Plus. And I want to talk a little bit about the Freddy. The Freddy did a great job. And if you're thinking about getting one, I think the construction, the value, the operation is all absolutely worth it. I got this from Freddy as a demo unit. It happened to be in the possession of Proteum Machining. Proteum Machining, they had some sort of deal going. Proteum Machining sent me the unit after, replacing a couple of stickers and things, and I paid Freddy. And this is not sponsored. It has a capacity of about it's about 12 gallons, more or less, and it's got two hoses. It's got the Gazinta and the Gazauta, and here's a picture of Dan along with the Freddy as a size reference. And the big black hose coming in from the top, that's the suck-in hose. And then this clear hose that comes out of the bottom, that's the blow-out hose. And what you have to do, it's actually quite interesting. On the opposite side, which you can't quite see in the picture, you have to gear shift the whole unit from blow to suck. And once you do that, you can, suck out stuff with the Freddy, stop it, close the valve, gear shift it into blow mode, turn on the Freddy, take the other hose, and then you can open the valve and it will blow the stuff out, having gone through the Freddy's filter. So the filter is pretty big. It's like half the size of a 5-gallon pail. Okay, it's a big filter. It comes with a 100 micron filter. The smallest non-exotic filter you can buy for it is 10 microns. Sound familiar? So there's a big 10 micron filter in there. And to make a long story short, every time it passes through, it gets filtered. So every drop of whatever that we sucked out with the Freddy, it passes through this 10 micron filter. The other thing you need with the Freddy is you have to have containers to handle the filtered material. And here's a picture of the filter. This is the 100 micron filter. I did use the 100 micron filter to catch the big bits. In retrospect, it wasn't necessary. I could have run the whole job with the 10 micron filter. But this is a picture of the 100 micron filter. The 10 micron filter looks like felt. Okay? And it is not cleanable. The 100 micron filter is cleanable. So you you go through, you clean out the material, you put it into some temporary containers, and then you work on the bottom of the tank, and you clean up the tank. And when you're all ready, you use the Freddy to pump it back into the tank. So you can see you're getting filtered in both directions, and that is excellent. One of the things I did not like about the Freddy is, oh hey man, Shade and HKW is with us. Nice to see you, Stan. You can catch up later. We'll save this recording for you, okay? I promise. One of the things that was difficult on the Freddy was the operation of the big ball valve on top. I think either it got difficult or it was difficult. I'm not sure which. But I ended up getting a short piece of aluminum pipe, which I will show you, that made it a lot easier to operate. And it's a combination of ergonomics, and it was really high torque to close that valve. So I'm going to investigate what that's about, and we'll see. And the only other thing I did to the Freddy is I just added some tie downs so that when you're moving the machine around, the big black hose doesn't flop all over the place, and it makes it easier. Those are really, that's it. Those are my complaints about the Freddy. It's very nice, easy to move around. Its footprint is about, I'll be conservative, I'll call it two shop vacs, right? 2 5-gallon shop vacs. That's about the footprint of the Freddy. Otherwise, I thought it worked great. Yeah, Wesley says, my complaint is I don't have one. Well, you might be getting one after we finish with this discussion. So let's get back to we're back on the band filter. And here's a picture of the inside of the electrical box on the band filter. So you can see there's a great big hole on the bottom, which is where I unwired the motor from. And then this is actually after I popped a hole in the side of the electrical box and put in the wiring from a connector. So these were Amphenol waterproof connectors. Got them off McMaster-Carr. If you really care, I will put the information down in the description for what the numbers were. And then this worked out stunningly well. Let me see if I show you a picture of the final. Yeah, here's the connector. Here's a connector fully installed on the side, and there is an O-ring between the connector body and oh yeah, Bill Olney says, how many clutter credits? Dude, exactly correct. That was the math I was going through. The fact that you have to dedicate that piece of floor to this machine is non-trivial. You have to, it absolutely was part of the equation. So, well, let me bring up this point, and we'll get back to electrical in a second. If you have big machines, and this is exactly what Proteum went through, right? He has big machines. This is what A-Bomb went through on his machine, which is not a Freddy, it's another brand. If you have a big machine, you should get a big, I'm going to call it a Freddy. This is like, again, Coke and Pepsi. You should get a big Freddy, right? Because if you have 40-gallon capacity in your Freddy and you have a 40-gallon tank, you're not screwing around with external containers. You're just going to suck it out, do your thing, clean up, and blow it back in, and you're done. And that's an appropriate behavior for a machine shop that's making money on being a machine shop. However, how much floor space does that machine take? A lot, okay? So it takes more electrical, more floor space. There's a whole bunch of mores there. Does it remove tramp oil? Answer, no. So as part of this cleaning process, if you needed to, you would, when you get to your tank, You would get rid of the tramp oil however you want to get rid of it. You could suck it up in the Freddy, but it's not going to remove the tramp oil. Okay, it's just going to suck it up with everything else. Carl, I think he had a Freddy, and then I think he might have gotten a sponsorship. I'm not sure. We're going to have to ask A-Bomb about that if we ever get a chance to, schmooze. But I think he went with this other brand for commercial reasons. Yeah, so Stan says that, I know you didn't mean this, he says disc swimmers work well. He means disc skimmers. So you're going to have, if you are a tramp oil, if you're concerned about tramp oil, you're going to have something to deal with tramp oil. This is not that. So I made the decision that the tiniest floor space was my biggest concern, and the Freddy Micro Plus, which is not their smallest machine, the Micro is even smaller, but it's the same footprint. So the Micro Plus was perfect, and it was a complete serendipity. I started talking about, I'm thinking about getting a Freddy, like right at the time that Proteum started thinking about trading up to a bigger size. I mean, literally, it was in the same week, and that's how that whole thing unfolded. So, except for doing the container dance, it's a great process. Now, Dale and I talked about this because Dale has the same unit, and Dale uses 5-gallon buckets. So if you're pumping out a tank that's 40 gallons, you have 8 buckets behind you. You suck it out, fill up the Freddy, you dump out into the buckets, you do it again, right, until the thing is empty. I happen to have around 15-gallon carboys. So it turns out I had to modify them. And I had to cut a bigger hole in the top of the carboy so that the Freddy sucker can get to the bottom. So I think I may have some pictures, but I have to modify a couple of these units, which I already had kicking around. So that was my containers. Mr. Tim Beatty says, you have that 35-gallon trash can. I do. Anyway, moving back to electrical. So we put this connector in, and we chopped off the motor conduit. We shortened the motor conduit, and we installed this wonderful connector. So this is electrically, this is complete now. This is the motor feeding into an Amphenol connector plugged into the electrical housing. The left side of the connector, you can see there's a rubber compression right here. Underneath this side of the chassis connector, there's another O-ring. It's a lovely design. And finally, the last piece of the puzzle, let's see if I have a good picture of that. There's the male connector, and there's the final installation. You'll see this stuff. Now I got to show you this. I actually brought a piece of it. This is a sleeving material, which you can wrap around hoses or wires or whatever. Stan, this is like kindergarten. So you buy it from McMaster-Carr. It looks like it has Velcro on both sides. Make this bigger. Okay. This particular one is a dense nylon material that is waterproof. So you can wrap it around a bundle like so and protect a bundle of cables or tubes or whatever. And that's what I did. I bought a length of this stuff. I bought 5 feet of it, and it worked out fantastically well. A couple of wire ties, and we're done. So now next year, when I do this again, I just disconnect that thing, and we're off to the races, and we're going to be good. Now, the very, very last thing, and this is a pretty funny story, the very, very last thing was the hole in the bottom of the electrical cabinet. So I go to the hardware store, and I go to the electrical department, and I find the bin. Thank you, Stan. Yeah, it does. I go to the bin that has these, they're called knockout hole plugs. And I find exactly one half-inch plug. So I take it up to the counter, and there's this young guy, you know, high school age kid working there. And this is normal for my local hardware store. I really love those guys. And I put it on the counter, and he looks at it, and he takes out the barcode reader, and he reads the barcode, and it pops up on the screen, 79 cents. And I lean in, and I say to this young kid, hey, listen, can I get financing? And he turns and he looks at me, and you can see the little, am I going to have a problem here, go through his head? Anyway, that was my funny for the day. So we got the plug. We went ahead and finished the job, put the plug in, and just so you know, I actually finished the job. There it is, my half-inch plug. So it all worked out extremely well. It's back in service. I'm a happy camper. And instead of doing this every 5 years, yes, it was 5 years. Instead of doing this every 5 years, I will do this every year. And now it's easy. And the amount of sludge we took out, thank you for hanging in here for this story, because now you're going to get the nugget. The amount of sludge we took out was 45 pounds. 45 pounds of sludge came out of that thing, which, by the way, didn't take up much volume, but it was dense and heavy, and it was, in fact, oh, there's the picture. There it is, 45 pounds.
Now you know the rest of the story.
So that's the story of the Freddy. Mr. Dan got his sushi. Mr. Freddy got his new connectors. The coolant never looked better. I had to add more water to make up for the sludge, and we finally achieved success on that. So come back in another year, and we'll do it. Let's see. Dale says that's all of the non-flat bits of the stones. Yes, we call that the NFG. So we have the PFG and the NFG. Choose wisely. But I've thought of this. Evils was saying we should take it and put it into a press, and then fire it in a kiln and keep going. Why not? Now, I have to admit, it's not pure sludge. It's almost overwhelmingly aluminum oxide, but there's a sprinkling of silicon carbide and just a touch of metal for taste. I know, because I tasted it. No, Robin, the weight of the container was not teared out. You caught me with my thumb on the scale. I was too tired to tear anything out. I was going to tear something out, but that's not what you meant. No, I just waited. I had to weigh it to finish my my trauma, and everything is appropriately disposed of, and we're done with that. But it was a very, very it was satisfying. It was a satisfying project in the end. Everything is back in place. Everything's working. Topped it up. New coolant, molto bono, Benny. We move on to the next project. So, yeah, that's the story. That was the week. If you don't have a system for dealing with your coolant, get one. I will tell you that I use, and I know I've said this before, I use 100% distilled water in my coolants. I use Qualichem 250 XC or XC250. I can't remember how they do it. Is that a non-Newtonian fluid? That's a really good question. It was pretty amazing. I don't know if it's non-Newtonian, but you know what? Okay, now you got me thinking. Why did you do that? Now I can't sleep tonight. We'll have to research that. Yeah, now I can't think of what I was saying. You totally ripped me off track. So the chemistry. So in my mill, we're going to do this again in the mill, and I'll take pictures and stuff. Now that we know what we're doing, in the mill, I've had that coolant running for 14 years. 14 years. So good filtering, proper water, which I think is always distilled water. Tim Beattie says, don't tell Qualichem, they'll charge more. I could not be happier with that product. # not sponsored. Fantastic coolant. So it's the same coolant in the mill as the grinder, except the grinder is running at 3.5%. The mill is running at 7%. And it's also a little bit is in the lathe.
Lathe tooling.
Yes, and a little bit is in the saw, but it's all the same coolant. So Mr. Freddy is going to be sucking up even more of Qualichem 250. That's my Qualichem story. That's my modification story. Strongly recommended. So here we are last week, and if you have any questions, let me know on that particular topic. Wesley says, I've had my coolant in my mill for 4 years. Still looks new. Right? Good filtering. Oh, there's one more thing. Hang on. There's one more thing I forgot to tell you. In my coolant tank, in the grinder, in addition to everything you've seen, is one thing that I did not tell you about. Let's see if I can see it in one of my pictures. There is an air pump. Yeah, there it is. There is an air pump. Right, it's hard to see, but it's right there, sitting on top of the electrical cabinet. And there's a tube that comes out of that air pump. It goes into this little hatch here, okay? And it has a porous aquarium aerator ball. What do you call them, Evils? Yes. Evils has already identified the make and model of my pump. It's a Tetra aquarium air pump, an Air Stone. Right. This is the size of a golf ball, okay? And it's just tossed roughly into the center of my coolant tank, and it runs 24/7. And it's this very unobtrusive little vibrating pump. And that helps discourage anaerobic bacteria growth. And that's the only other secret I have. There's something similar on the mill side, but I'm going to say that for another day. Yeah. Evils thinks I should make flat stones out of the air stone. No, I think we're going to keep apples and oranges separate. Yeah. An air stone, exactly, Stan. Carl says the sludge was highly dilatant, but the coolant is very likely Newtonian. Okay. Did you ever feel like you were standing on the edge of a precipice that looked down into an abyss? That's how I feel right now. We're not taking the bait, Carl. We're not taking the bait. Yes, and Evil also correctly says that it helps prevent the coolant from freezing over. Because this is, after all, New Hampshire. So we have to be careful about that. Yeah, project complete. Very happy. So then last week, so if you didn't know, let me cover a couple of little housekeeping here. If you're not a member of our Discord server and you would like to be, head over to pfg.gg/discord. Shocking, I know. You will be required to fill out a form which proves that you are really you. Trust me, it's easy. And then you will receive an invite, and you can come over and join us on Discord. The reason I say that is we have an after-party roundtable after the live in which we all argue and have finger sandwiches. So in last week's this after-party roundtable, I think is where I said something about the welder. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Warren, but I think it was in the after-party roundtable. I said something about, I have this MIG welder and I never use it. And I told the story about getting ready to do this project. I'm building a frame for something. Actually, I think it was when I was doing the loft bed frame for Sam. And I went to get the appropriate tool out, which was the MIG welder. And I got right up into the moment of truth, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I said, nah, I'm going to TIG it. And I ended up TIGging the whole thing. So I was talking about the fact that I think I've landed on the fact that I'm a TIG welder, and I'm going to stick with TIG, and I think I might sell the MIG welder. In the meantime, Warren says, he calls me up the next day, 2 days later, and he says, I want your MIG welder. And I said, why? So my welding equipment, which actually you can still see right in the background here. Let's see, you see that? There's my TIG welder right there, and there's my MIG welder right there. Okay, so they're blue. Okay, that means, for those of you at home who are playing along, that means Miller. And Warren is running a red welder, a red MIG welder in his professional work. That means Lincoln. And it's overheating, and it's repeatedly overheating, and he can't get what he needs out of this little MIG welder. So we talked a little bit. We shook hands on the deal. You came like the same day, Warren, I think. And might have been the next day, but I think it was the same day. We sat, we schmoozed, and he went home with my MIG welder. So that was actually a very, again, it's all about timing. Here's the MIG welder going out the door. I got all my goodies out. For those of you who are keeping score, it's a Millermatic 211. It's called an MVP. And there's my tank of 7525, which was heading back to Airgas successfully. And here's one final shot, just to say goodbye to my MIG welder. As it went off to, you can see I completely wore it out with Lincoln wire. Sorry, Mike. It won't happen again, I promise. But off it goes, and hopefully we'll get some reports from Warren that he has good success with it. I am absolutely certain he will. But what that did for me is that, gave me this big gaping hole. So my plasma cutter, which is also infrequently used, which is sitting on top of the Department of Welding department, will drop into this hole, and that will expose a dangerous flat surface. And who knows what that's going to mean. But we'll get that going. And I am now MIG-less. I actually own exactly one welder now and one plasma cutter. And I am happy about it. And I got really good... Watch this, guys. I got really good service from my good friends at Airgas. Those of you... Yeah, I know. Bill, that flat surface is not going to last very long. Oh, look at what we got here. We got some... Evil says, over here, red is Lorch. That's interesting. Although you do have Lincoln filler. Yeah, it's red versus blue. It continues. So Airgas has been my supplier for literally, I think, 30 years. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that crazy? I'm not old enough to have a welding supplier that's 30 years old. And they take really good care of me. We'll talk more about them next week, maybe. Or maybe not. So that's my story on going full TIG, no MIG, and we'll go from there. I don't know what Instagram link you just put in there, Robin, but I'm scared to click on it. Maybe we'll do that in the after party roundtable. So I think, let's see, did we get all this? Last week, another coincidence. Oh, there was an item in Instagram, Facebook, one of the socials, about our good friend Keith Rucker, who showed a setup on the mill on his very interesting Kearney and Trecker 2D mill, and got all sorts of lip about how horrible his setup was. And I'm like, and you guys can go find it. I'm not going to provide a link to it, but if you follow on the socials, you will have seen this. Hey, man, Doc Marty, welcome aboard, sir. Nice to see you. Yeah. So he got all this grief about how he was holding this work in his. Oh, okay. Robin's going to talk about his grinder filter system. Oh, there it is. Oh, I remember this. Yeah. Excellent. Yes, we'll talk about this. I do remember you doing this, Robin. Thank you, Evils. So I just want to say a few things about that particular instance, because I looked at that and I made a comment on the thread. Have you ever heard the term 6DOF? 6DOF, 6 degrees of freedom, right? So if the way things move is in 3 axes, okay, and 3 rotations. And if you move things around in, if you move things around in Fusion, sometimes you'll, actually no, it's my simulation software. There's a function called transform, and it gives you all the arrows. It gives you 3 straight arrows and then 3 little circular things. Anyway, things move in 6 degrees of freedom. 3 linear motions, 3 rotational around each of the axes. And yes, thank you. X, Y, Z, and A, B, C. You've heard of people talking about they have a C axis or a B axis. This is what it means. So I looked at Keith's setup. Now, admittedly, there was a bolt that went through the cylindrical part of his fixture that went into the table, which if you didn't think, a lot of people didn't think in that thread. If you think about it, you'll see the difference. I looked at the picture and I said, he's covering X, he's covering Y, he's covering Z. And he's covering A, he's covering B, he's covering C. It was a perfect setup, and for some reason he got all sorts of grief. That shouldn't have happened. So, Keith, you did it right, and we're with you. I think that's the whole story today. Whatever happened to the 8-inch laps? They're in process. So the 8-inch laps are actually working, and I am waiting on my illuminator. So we didn't talk a lot about the illuminator today. I'll show you really briefly. So I need the illuminator to do my inspection with the 8-inch optical flat. So the illuminator is the project right now. I received from McMaster Carr some different materials. We talked about it last week, which I'm going to use in my design. So my design calls for 2 layers of diffusion. And one of the layers, from some literature that I had researched, was this micro, what would we call it? Pyramidal structure. This is like what you see when you look up in an office and you see a diffuser on a lamp. They use this a lot. And then the other one is just they call it a micro reticular blah, blah, blah. It's got a surface finish. And if we turn on a flashlight, okay, I'm going to try to do this so that it makes sense. And you go over to this thing. Look at the pattern you get out of it. It's kind of funky. This is the pyramidal stuff. And then if you scooch down to the diffusion, the micro reticulated, it's much softer. So I'm going to experiment with this. And as much as I was all excited about this stuff, I got a funny feeling it might be 2 layers of this stuff. So stay tuned. I will let you know. Not sure yet, but that's the status of that whole project. So when the illuminator's done and I can start making measurements in a very repeatable way, which is part of this whole process, then I can start lapping the work. And that's the important thing, because the work tells you how you're doing. So Carl says, why do you need diffusion? Your sodium lamp is incoherent. So am I. So the sodium lamp is incoherent, and let's just define what that means. Did we talk about that on? I don't know if we talked about it live or if we talked about it only in the after party. Yeah. So, a laser is a coherent light source. That means that the light that comes out of a laser is exactly one frequency, and its intensity is following a sine wave at the frequency of the light. It is a pure signal. Mostly. Okay, so that's what a laser does. The monochromatic sodium lamp is not a coherent source. It has a bandwidth. Okay, so it's not one frequency. It's a band of frequencies, but that band is very narrow. So it is sufficiently narrow that we get one set of fringes that are readable, computable when we do an optical flat measurement. So you can reflect, diffuse, and deliver light from a non-coherent source without screwing anything up. Now, I didn't prepare for this today, but I did think about it this week, so I don't have a demo for you. Maybe next week we'll do a demo. If you ever play with a laser, has anybody here done the ping pong ball on the output of the laser trick? I taught this a long time ago. You get the $30 laser from, Dale did it. You get the $30 laser, green laser from Amazon that swears it's under 5 milliwatts. Use extreme caution, okay? And you tape a ping pong ball to the end of it. Paul did it also. And you get a diffuse green laser light, and it's very narrow. You didn't change anything. And when you're playing with laser light, you will see speckles, okay? Anybody ever see the speckles and things when you're messing around with laser light, and you don't see those speckles when you play around with anything else, like a sodium source or a white light or a sodium, whatever. You don't see those LED lighting. Dale has it right there. So those speckles are nulls and peaks in different rays of your laser that are meeting, and they're canceling or reinforcing, and you get these speckles. That's because it's operating on one frequency. Okay? So if you put it on a spectrum analyzer, you'd see a line. The sodium lamp has some bandwidth to it. It's not crazy, but it has some bandwidth to it. And you don't see the speckles. However, it is sufficiently narrow
to do what we want and is used, frequently. So the design of the box is it supports the lamp. The lamp is inside of a box, the inside of which is painted white. And the rule is the light that comes out of the box, we don't want it directly from the bulb. We want it to have bounced off something. So there's a plate underneath it, and then there's some diffusion under it. And in the design that I'm working from, there's 2 layers of diffusion. So when you're all done and you look up at this illuminator, you see a square of beautifully uniform monochromatic light of sufficient monochromaticity. That makes sense? I hope that was coherent. I don't know, sometimes. Anyway, that's coming in for a landing, as we talked about in recent weeks. And when that's done, I could start actually measuring the work. As we know, you learn about your lapping process from the work, not from the laps. The laps are done, and the laps have been preliminarily lapped in. So we're getting there. Did I overly answer your question, sir? Yeah, so wow, Evils, I'm not even sure how to answer that. Remember, everything we talk about with respect to light, it's just another frequency of radio signal to me. The laps never touch the reference surface. The laps never touch the reference surface. The reference surface is an optical flat. The laps never touch the optical flat. The laps lap the work. Okay, so you got to be careful here. There are situations where you can have non-contact measurements. This is not one of those things. So Cyrus was talking about making a non-contact measurement. So there's air between the reference surface and the thing being measured. I am not doing that. I just want to make that clear. I'm doing what you would call a fairly conventional optical flat measuring the work. I hope does that work? Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. If anybody has anything they want to add, let me know. I see Evils is still typing. We will take his comment. Don't forget, if you need something flat or something to make something flat, head over to PFGstones.com. I got some interesting questions on email this week. Speaking of Cyrus, thank you very much for your order. We took care of you. It's out in the wind and on the way down to you. And I'm dragging my feet here to see what Evils is typing. Okay, so we had a conversation with Cyrus Lloyd in PFG.Live 2025-1123. That was our interview with Cyrus Lloyd, and we nerded out on some things. You can go check it out there. Yeah, I hope I covered that. With that, I'm going to say get flat, stay flat, and we really look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.